Hey, how you doing today? This is Jim Cardona from Cardona Pinball Designs. I wanted to make an installation video for how to install one of my kits into an older Bally Williams pinball machine. As many of you know, we're working on No Good Gofers and also Black Rose right now, and a few other titles which haven't been disclosed yet. And I thought, based on feedback from a lot of people, they install a kit and maybe their machine wasn't 100% working, and then they're wondering, what the problem was. So I wanted to go through things to look for before you install the kit, like to make sure your machine was 100% working. So what I have right here is a Black Rose that it's a friend of mine gave me to install a kit. It had a lot of things wrong with it, so we fixed those, and I just wanted to go through some things to look for. So let me make this window smaller. Okay, so obviously, Williams machines were really good at having test stuff, especially with these DMD games. So you're gonna push the enter button, go to test. It'll give you, like, if it hasn't logged a certain switch being made in a long time, it'll give you that right off the bat. So so that first error that came up that said upper flipper end of stroke EOS switch, which is missing on this game. So I'm not not that worried about that. Our kits we don't need that, right? We have the end of stroke on the lower flippers, which is fine. So we can go through here, go to test. There's two switch test menus. You have switch edges or switch levels. We're going to go to switch edges, hit enter to start it. So now what this does is anytime any switch is triggered, it shows you on the matrix which switch it is, and it reads it out here. We just want to make sure all the switches work. So I'm just going to go through and hit these switches and make sure they go, right? So I just go through all of them, right? And for some of them, you're going to need a ball, like, for example, without taking things apart. Like, there's some switches back in here. There's a switch back in here. There's a switch back in here. Some of them, like these older games, they don't have anything that disables this coils when you open the door. So, for example, you saw when I hit the slings that the sling fired, like that one did. Same thing with the pop bumpers. Just be aware of that. So, like, when I hit these pop bumpers, they're gonna actually fire, right? So, so that's that. You can eject the ball, and if you want to, like, if I want to check these switches, I'm going to just fling a ball up there. Let's see if I can get it to go all the way. So I got both of those switches. Now the ball is going to be stuck until I eject it. Right, so we got the solenoid test, flashers. You can go through that, and for these, you can put it on running, and it'll just cycle through all of them. Some of them you see, and they're not, like right now I took all the bulbs out of the top. You can see the light's not on here, so the flashers that are back in here are not firing. But we definitely want all the playfield ones to fire. So that's that. General elimination, all lamps test. This just flashes all the lights, right? So obviously you could put a kit in and not have all your lights working, but you're not going to have indication, right, of something on the game. And one thing I want to point out before I go on with the lights is I generally put all white LEDs in here, with the exception of the jewels, which you can see I put red in all of these jewels, and that's something I recommend for this particular kit, Black Rose. It doesn't have to be red, but there's several modes in the new game that really rely on these jewel lights to know. I hit the flipper button there. To know, they're purposeful targets in a couple of modes. So One of the things, if you don't know this game, these are supposed to be like jewels, right? You're a pirate, you're collecting jewels or treasure, and then these some people put these as gold. This is supposed to be like a bucket of coins here and here on this ramp. I just put them all red. You could put them all blue, yellow, or, you know, whatever you want to do. But just to kind of ties them together because they're kind of unified to one type of mode. Another thing I noticed about the lamps, one of the GI is these lights that are behind the cannon. You see on some games, because this cannon moves, I think I've seen a lot of games where those lights don't work. And I think the reason being is because maybe sometimes people snip the tie wraps and the wire gets too close to the cannon and the cannon just kind of rips them out, and then people don't fix it because it's just a GI. I really recommend having this illuminated. This particular one only has 3 lights, but there's supposed to be 4 there. I put blue. I've seen yellow, looks really nice. The reason being is because when the ball first goes in there, you don't want to fire it before the ball is all the way into the catapult, and you don't want to hit the fire button early. But if you can't see the ball, then you're not going to know that. Another thing is, like with some of the machines I've seen, this thing gets, because it's plastic and this machine is really old, 1992, you know, it's 30 years old. A lot of times you'll see these are so hazy you can't see the ball. I recommend replacing this. It's not that difficult to replace the plastic. It's probably less than $50 for both pieces, but if you just want the outside one, I think they're like 30 or 35. And Planetary Pinball has these. I've replaced these before. It's not too difficult. So we're going to test the solenoids. Again, I just go to put it on running, and it'll just fire all of them. It's moving the cannon. Just want to make sure all your coils work. On this game is it has this wire form that comes down here, and mine has, this is my friend's, but there's a wire form or a piece of metal that's missing here that goes right here, and you can see there's a bunch of weld marks here. My machine that's sitting right over there has the same problem, but it's broken on this side, and the reason being is when they designed this is every time this cannon fires, this flap flings up and it hits it, okay? And they have this metal plate right here. It's kind of an impact point, but just, you know, 30 years of jarring that, it tends to snap these. So I just want to talk a little bit about what's behind the back box, what's going to be changed, just so you know what you're going to get into. And I want to show you one other thing under the play field, and that's it for this video. And then the next video, we're going to I'm going to go through a full replacement of a kit. Okay, so let's go back in here. Oh, gotta turn the key. Let's pull this out. Now with my kit, for this particular game, these Bally games, the display, let me turn this a little bit here like that. The display is behind the image, so the graphic. So what we're doing is we're replacing this entire graphic because we're going to be putting in a bigger LCD. So like this is the new one right here, what this looks like. So you can see, I can get it in there. You're getting this tremendously large screen. We're going to be replacing this dot matrix display with a full LCD display, and because of that, not only do you have to, we have to send you this new Translite, but this panel has to be replaced, right? So we're going to give you a new panel that has a monitor on it, a big monitor. So yeah, it's a big box because we have to give you a new one of these. So you're gonna have to replace. You're gonna have to pull this out. So all these lights, you might as well just take them out because use them in some other game. You're not gonna use those anymore. Obviously, this is just a nut and bolt or screw here. You're going to take this out. These metal pieces, you need them for the new one. We're just going to send you the board without these metals. So you're going to have to transfer that stuff, transfer this stuff to the new wooden board. Okay, so now we're inside the back box. I'm going to turn the machine off just so that if I'm pointing at something. All right, so what's getting replaced and what's not getting replaced. So what's getting replaced is the WPC CPU board, okay? The dot matrix controller board, we don't have a dot matrix anymore, that's going to be removed. And the sound board, right? So that's going to be removed. What's staying? Power driver board and your Fliptronics board that controls your flippers. All right, so you definitely need those two to be working. If you're trying to install this kit, you have a high level of confidence in yourself, and you said, well, I got a non-working machine, instead of me buying, you know, $600 or $700 in new boards just to get it working and change the kit out, I'm just going to buy a kit, because, you know, the cabling you're still going to use. So our replacement, we go with the Fast company. All these plugs are going to match. So these plugs will go in the same locations on the Fast board. This plug, this that goes to the Fliptronics will stay. You don't need the rest of it, so it'll just kind of be hanging. Some of these power cords will come out, and I usually just tape them off, or, you know, kind of bind them back in here under these clips so that they're out of the way. There's another board that we're going to provide that's going to go right here, that's going to have a computer on it and a startup shutdown controller / audio amplifier. And then there's a power unit that goes below the playfield that we supply. Okay, so out of all of this, the hardest part or the most tedious thing is taking this off the board, this wooden panel, and these wires, unfortunately. So you have all these wiring and they all kind of snake back in here. So you have to spend some time fishing that out, fishing this ribbon cable out. All this stuff here on the power board, you're not going to unplug. Another thing a lot of people do, although these things are in general keyed, a lot of people will label them before they pull them off. Okay, so that's something to think about. So just trying to give you a feel for what you're getting into. So the last piece, I think I'm going to switch to my cell phone video for this last piece. I want to go under the playfield and point out a couple things. Okay, I switched to cell phone video just so I can point it. One other thing I forgot to point out when I had the playfield is that this is a very common failure point. There's like a piece of plastic with some connections there that pretty much every manufacturer's gone away from using that, and they've gone with mechanical switches. And you'll see a lot of people. So this is like somebody's just screwed this down here and replaced the wires, and this is robust and really works. In our code, you can, if your fire button is not working, there's an option where you can turn on the flipper buttons will also fire. So obviously took the balls out so I could raise the playfield up. Just want to show you down in here. So this machine is kind of different than a lot of other ones in that the type of plug it has on these WPC. So ours, this one here, it has this kind of plug, which is a USA type of plug. A lot of the newer machines, they have like that IEC, I forget what it is, 9000 plug, which is different, like the WPC 95s do. But so this is the type of plug that our kit is made to plug into. But if you're Europe or outside of US, you might have a different style plug. You're just going to have to get an adapter. But not a big deal. Our power supply is made to go on anything from 220, 50 hertz to 120 volts, 60 hertz. And what I typically do, you'll see when we do the installation video, is I usually just set it right here. Some people mount it here, but I don't know, when the playfield folds down, I don't like it to be too close. So I usually lay it down here and just screw it to the bottom. And then I run the cables behind and going up. And then there's a cord that like I said, plugs into your right here. And that's what's going to power up your game. So the reason I point that out is, you know, when you're looking at your machine, wondering if you want to install this kit, you have to make sure that you have, you know, a power connector. I've seen these where they just put a blank over top of that, and there's no power connector in that service outlet. So it's not a big deal if you don't have one there. You know, you can buy those. They're like $3. $4 I get, you know, on eBay or Amazon. I've bought them, and they plug in. The hole is just under 1 inch. I think it's 31/32. I don't know what that is in millimeters, but it's a perfect square. The IEC ones are not a perfect square, so you want to make sure you get the ones that are a perfect square. And you can just, as far as adjustments on this cannon, so this is mounted below the playfield, and it should be very even with the playfield, such that if you roll a ball across it, that it doesn't change directions, right? So that's something you need to do to you don't want it to be like where it hits this and then it kind of rolls around. Or there's 3 adjustment screws on the bottom for setting this. And the nice thing is, once you have those set and locked down, you shouldn't have to move them. Even if you're going to replace this plastic or get in here, this all comes out without having to move those adjustment screws. The other thing is the Davy Jones locker ramp right here. Right, I've seen it where there's just a coil that pushes this, you know, pushes this flap and goes up and down. And I've seen it where this ramp is either binding on this side or binding on the opposite side. And I've seen it where it's binding so severely that when the coil fires, it's not strong enough to push it all the way up. So there's not really any screw adjustment. You just bend the ramp a little bit in the back to just get it centered. And I've had to do that. And the other thing is, so what raises this ramp up is this coil right here, right? And then this arm, it pushes on this angled piece right here, and as you can see, there's nothing behind that. So 30 years of that coil smashing into this metal tends to get really bent really bad. So when that's bent really bad, what happens is the ramp doesn't go up high enough. It'll just be sitting a little bit up. You go to fire the ball in, it hits the lip and gets like a reject. So again, that's just something you just have to bend. So you just go in here and straighten this out. Not that big a deal. So I just want to make sure you got that. All right, that's all I have for this video. And hope you buy my kit, and good luck.